Trajan Langdon's at it again. He made three big signings. One, an unrestricted free agent he brought in from elsewhere. One, a re-signing from a player they got last year midseason. And then they also added to that coaching staff. Well, let's start. Shooting guard Malik Beasley.
Yes, sir.
Malik Beasley, sharpshooter. We've been talking about the Pistons. They need floor spacing. They need three-point shooting. Kool-Aid, did Trajan Langdon just solve that with one swoosh?
Yeah, I mean, he's been solving that. If you want to throw Simone Fontecchio in there, who only played, 16 to 19 games for the Detroit Pistons, there's going to be a whole lot more shooting here on the Detroit Pistons around Cade Cunningham next season. This is all that anybody's asked for. Get him shooting, and not just any shooting. Availability. That's the best ability. That's what these guys do. So the thing that you see here between kind of the common theme between Trajan Langdon's free agent signings versus what we've seen during the Troy Weaver era is the fact that Trajan Langdon's players are projecting to actually play. That's huge. And not just play, but shoot it at a high clip. All of these guys are at 40% plus from behind the arc on high volumes. I think Tobias Harris might be the one that shoots like 3 or 4 threes per game, so not the highest of volumes, but he's still shooting 40%. And when he does start to get busy, he's one of those rhythm shooters that when he wants to shoot 7 or 8 threes, he's going to hit at a high clip as well. He's not one of those guys whose percentages really start to tail off. And so, yeah, Trajan Langdon went, and we talked about it before the break, and really prioritized getting veteran offense here. I think it's easier to teach up these young guys the type of offense you want them to fit versus being able to teach some of the other skills and traits and intrinsic abilities that they do have. But, yeah, Trajan Langdon, by far, he's improved this team. He's improved the shooting. I don't think that you're going to see this team be one of those ones that leads the league again in multiple lineup combinations.
No.
So, yeah, you're going to have some stability.
I can't figure out what their starting lineup's going to be now because you got to probably slide Malik Beasley in there. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But Malik Beasley, 1 year, $6 million to come in and shoot the lights out. The availability, the possibility, we can deal him at the deadline to a contender. But nonetheless, he's the guy they needed anyway to come in, not just support or work alongside Tim Hardaway Jr., but to actually get some of these younger guys, help out some of the younger guards, but also help out Cade on the floor where when they start to double Cade, he has a sharpshooter, a 41.3% volume sharpshooter from three with a little wiggle. After he makes a three, he's got the little shimmy.
Got a little bit of that shimmy, man.
Kind of underrated was a little swagger. Yeah, I hate Antoine Walker. But he had the swagger, bro. But he's got that swagger. And I don't know if this is something we need to spend a lot of time on or it hasn't been talked about much, but it seemed like the Pistons weren't really having fun last year. Like, there was no swagger. Not that you can really have too much swagger. It was 14 wins, but Malik Beasley brings a little attitude.
And you know what? It's a little attitude not just to the team we had last year, but to a team that is looking very much improved. I like Malik Beasley a lot. And it's really because of the number one thing that he does, and that is shoot. But this squad, you're right. For a young squad that's seeking an identity, you do need some players that carry a little bit of an edge. Tobias Harris carries a little bit of an edge. For some of the knocks that I hear against Tobias Harris, when you see him play, that man finishes a lot of plays with mean mugging at the end of it. Tobias Harris be out there talking trash to people too. Like, he has an edge, and you need it from a player who can go out there at any time and drop 25 on your head. It's different last year when you got a lot of these young players where Cade Cunningham was the only young player for a long time that could consistently say anything. Then all of a sudden, Simone Fontecchio get here, and I hear him chirping. Why? Well, because he can drop 20 on your head at any given moment. That's what I'm saying. So when you're adding players like Tim Hardaway Jr., who is going to bring a little bit of razz and pizzazz after he makes some shots, when he's playing defense, he's going to be talking to you. And Malik Beasley, who you talked about doing the shimmies and all of that. Yes, you need these types of identities on your team as long as these players are producing.
Dante 151 Broder, and he's a free agent from the Bucks. Yeah, he's used to winning.
Yep. Yeah.
He's used to winning. Did he?
All these players.
Did he play for Bickerstaff at any point in his career? Because Bickerstaff was with Milwaukee at some point, right? Maybe that was way back when.
Yeah. But all these players are used to winning. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr., regardless of what people want to say about his finals performance or not, he was there. He got that experience, and he was the number 3 leading scorer on the team that got to the finals. You got Tobias Harris, who's been playing on a lot of winning teams, except for when he got to the Pistons.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Even that team made the playoffs. So
these guys are bringing a lot of experience. They're bringing a lot of players to the squad that know how to get it done in high-pressure situations, which bodes well during a regular season in which most good teams, you can take it a little easy during the regular season. But for these Pistons, that's not something they have the luxury of doing. So to have players that understand the different levels and how tough and how hard you have to play to really get a win in this NBA, these guys are going to have to be the ones that go out there every single night. If the Pistons are talking about competing every night, now you got players that understand what that actually means.
Yes. And there's veterans that can go to these kids, go to these young men and say, hey, a little bit of effort during the regular season will get you 5-10 more wins because us veterans, us old men, we chill. We hang out during the regular season. We give it 70% load management. That's for us. That's for us. So just give a little effort. You guys should win 20 games, and then let's go from here. The double whammy this weekend to just add to this Malik Beasley signing is bringing back Simone Fontecchio. 2 years, $16 million. He played with the Pistons for 16 games last year. Shot over 42%.
Let's go.
Almost 43% from three. Simone Fontecchio is one of those young guys I'm really excited about. Kool-Aid, tell me about this fit.
Simone Fontecchio, and you know what? I'm still waiting to get all of the details about his signing because we talked about the Pistons having the ability to use their exceptions without using their cap space. So if that's the case, they're saying that they believe Simone Fontecchio might have been signed using a 2-year, $8 million a year, $16 million total exception, which would be amazing.
Why, what's that mean?
That means that the Detroit Pistons didn't have to use their actual cap space to sign him, and that still keeps them in position to go out there and make other moves to be able to acquire even more draft picks. So, yeah, and then when you're talking about Simone Fontecchio, when you're taking a 2-year bet on the Detroit Pistons like this as a young player who probably could have gotten a little bit more in the open market, just a little bit more in the open market, it shows that maybe they do believe in what's happening right now with this Detroit Pistons team. Simone Fontecchio talked about the fact that when he first got to Detroit, regardless of everything that was going on around here with all the losing, he said that being here with these young players was much different than what it looked like from the outside. He said Cade Cunningham was the first player that he's ever played with in his 3 years in the NBA that ever asked him, hey, where's your pocket? In terms of where do you want me to pass it to you? Hey, how do you like to move? What's your type of game? He said that Cade was the first player that came to him and asked him that because all these other players, they treat him like he's insignificant. And why would you? It was Simone Fontecchio.
Fontecchio.
It was somebody, but now all of a sudden he's proven himself. So, yeah, I like Simone Fontecchio. He wants to be here. He's taking a bet on Detroit. He's taking a bet on himself as well. If he does what we know he can do, it's going to look like a bargain these 2 years, but it's going to take a bag to bring him back. Maybe he's the guy that takes over for Tobias Harris full time.
Yeah.
When those 2 years are up.
Yeah, there's a timeline being built with these contracts, which with the type of players they're bringing in on these contracts, it should signal when. I think Trajan Langdon believes this team is about ready to, put the pedal to the metal, really hit the ground, and start contending, start competing in the playoffs consistently. You talk about that mid-level exception, leaves cap space open, more moves, maybe a trade incoming. Don Beats in the chat, talking trades in there. I want to maybe talk about that in the next segment. But last bit of transactional, strategical information. Sidney Lowe. JB Bickerstaff.
Familiar name.
A familiar name, adds a veteran coach, another veteran coach to his coaching staff. And before we talk about Sidney Lowe, we see this happening across the other Detroit sports teams, and I'm thinking Lions in particular, bringing in trusted veteran, trusted minds that not only can help with the current team, but that young kids also can relate to and look up to, believe in what they're saying in their mentorship. I think this is a big hiring. Another bit of credibility on the bench next to JB Bickerstaff. Excuse me.
It is, and you know what? It's a name that is also connected to former Detroit Pistons coach and current front office personnel, Dwayne Casey. Sidney Lowe was previously on Dwayne Casey's staff. And it was always kind of great remarks. Whenever you hear people talk about Lowe, it was always good things coming from the players. The one thing that I do like is that the Detroit Pistons have the opportunity now to go and kind of take the best of all of the different basketball minds they've had in this front office and within the coaching staff and say, you know what, okay, this is the formula. And you should, bro, after 15 years of trial and error, you should understand what works by now. And one of the things that the players really talked about, and other players as well, they talk about that Dwayne Casey coaching tree and how kind of attention to detail oriented they were, not just to these people in their games, but to them as human beings. And all the players, they talked about that at the exit interviews where Dwayne Casey's, it was his last year there. And they talked about the type of impact he and his staff was making on them. To be able to have that back on this staff, back within this organization, not just from the front office where Dwayne Casey is, but right down on the development floor, this bodes well. It shows they're making an investment in trying to make sure these players can have the vets they need, the shooting that they need, the development personnel that they need, so you can get the best out of the young players you've already drafted, because that can't be a bust.
It can't be.
It can't be. And you get the best out of players like Cade Cunningham as well.
Yeah, what good is going the youth movement? With any of our four sports teams, what good is going the youth movement if you don't have the right coaches, the right developers in place to get them to the next level? It's part of what
John Beilein versus Juwan Howard.
Exactly. It's part of what the Tigers are going to ride or die. And can they develop their young guys unlike past regimes or not? It's all to be determined.